Okay guys, today we're going to go over the genetics pre-quiz that you took and make sure you know how to work these genetics problems. These first problems are all very basic Mendelian genetics, meaning that you have one trait that's dominant over the other. And when the dominant allele is present, then the recessive allele is not expressed. The dominant allele is expressed. By allele, I mean what version of the trait is being displayed. For example, if the trait is seed shape, the versions or the alleles are round or wrinkled. If the seed shape or seed color is the trait, they can either be yellow or green, etc. The dominant allele is represented by a capital letter. The recessive allele is represented by a small letter. The term genotype means the combination of the letters. The term phenotype means the trait that's expressed. Another set of terms that you need to be familiar with are homozygous and heterozygous. Homozygous means that you have both the same letters. Heterozygous means you have one of each. So let's go from there and work through these first problems. These are all just basic dominant recessive problems. So what color will be found in a cross between homozygous purple and white? The first thing you do is you write down the parents. Homozygous purple, that means they have two dominant alleles for homozygous. For white, the only way that they can be white is to have two recessive alleles, because if they'd had the dominant allele, then they would have expressed it and been purple. So what we're going to do, this is one parent, this is the other parent, and these are the possible alleles that they can create during meiosis, or that they can contribute during meiosis to create gametes, or sperm and egg. So for example, if this is the male, he could contribute only a capital P to his sperm. So these letters represent the gametes. If this were the female, she could only contribute a little p. When you put those together in your Punnett square, the Punnett square represents the possible offspring that could result from this cross. So as you can see, they're all big P, little p, therefore they're all purple. So to answer the question, what colors will be found in the cross? All purple. All right, the next one, if a pea plant is heterozygous for color, big Y, little y, and is crossed with a green seeded plant, in order to be green, you have to have both recessive alleles, because yellow is dominant to green. So you'd have to have little y, little y. The first parent could contribute a big Y or a little y to his gametes. The second parent only has little y. When you put that all together, what you find are half are big Y, little y, and half are little y. That's a 1-to-1 ratio of yellow to green. Our question says, what are the potential colors and ratios? So the potential colors are yellow and green in a ratio where half are yellow and half are green. So that's a 1-to-1 ratio. All right, the next one is worded really poorly. So what we're going to do is just use the term heterozygous for shape, because you can't be heterozygous for wrinkled, because wrinkled is the recessive allele. So two plants that are heterozygous for shape, so that's going to be that combination right there, where round is dominant to wrinkled, because that's what it's set up here. Round is dominant to wrinkled. All right, this parent can contribute either allele. This parent can contribute either allele. When we combine everything, you'll see that 3/4 are round. This one's round because it has 2 alleles. This one's round because it has 1 of the dominant alleles. 1/4 are wrinkled, because in order to be wrinkled, you have to have 2 of the recessive alleles. The question asks, what percentage of the offspring are wrinkled? If 1/4 are wrinkled, that's 25%. All right, number 4. Sickle cell is a disease that affects the blood, and it's recessive. What are the chances that 2 normal parents who are carriers? So a person who's a carrier carries the recessive allele, but they do not have the disease. So both of these parents look like this. This is their genotype. Their phenotype is normal. Their alleles can be distributed this way. And here's what we end up with. Again, 3 out of 4 are going to be normal. They have normal genotypes. 1 out of 4, this one, is going to have sickle cell disease. So what are the chances? 1 in 4, or 25%. The next one is going to build on this one. So if 1 in 4 can have sickle cell, because it says, what's the probability that these parents will have 2 children in a row? So the chances of them having 1 child is 1/4. The chances the next time that they're going to have a kid are also 1/4. So it's 1/4 for each kid, 1/4 chance. If I want to know the chances of having 2 children in a row, you just multiply those together, and that's 1/16. So there's a 1 in 16 chance that they will have 2 children in a row who have sickle cell. All right, this last one is a 2-trait problem. So basically what you need to figure out is what your gametes are going to look like. When you have 2 traits, each gamete has to consider both traits. So let's write down what we've got. We've got a pea plant that is heterozygous for color and shape. So that parent, for pea color, remember, is yellow or green, and pea shape, which is round or wrinkled, and the parents are identical. So we're going to cross that parent with an identical parent. So how do you get the alleles that go into the gametes? Well, they have to have a Y and an R for each one. So Y, the big Y, can either go with big R, or it can go with little r. And then the little y can either go with the big R or the little r. And then this parent's going to be exactly the same, so you can just kind of copy. Now here's where it gets tricky, because you have to be very specific with what you put in the boxes and take your time. So we'll go ahead and recombine everything. And what I recommend as you go is to put the phenotypes in there with the genotypes. So here, this individual is going to be yellow and round. This individual is going to be yellow and round. Then here we got big Y, big R, also yellow, round. Big Y, big R, yellow, round. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this through. Notice here I have a wrinkled one because of that genotype. Notice I always put the big letter first and the little letter second. That's just standard nomenclature for doing that. Notice here I finally have a green one. Okay, so now I have all my genotypes and phenotypes, and that was pretty tedious and took a long time. There is a shortcut that I will show you as we start moving through these problems, because I don't want you to have to work a two-trait problem this way. There is a shortcut using probability that goes a lot faster. Now we need to count, so we want to know what possible offspring they will produce and what ratio. So I have to kind of go through and count. So let's count the yellow rounds first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Probably should have crossed them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have 9 yellow round. Those are both of the dominant traits. Now let's look at yellow wrinkled. 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 that are yellow and wrinkled. So that's one dominant trait and one recessive trait. Then let's look at green and round. 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 green round. Notice that this is a recessive trait and this is the dominant trait. So I have 3 with the other arrangement of dominant and recessive. And then 1 green wrinkled. And those are both of the recessive traits. So my ratio ends up being 9 to 3 to 3 to 1, where 9 have both dominant traits, 3 has one dominant and one recessive, 3 have the other recessive dominant combination, and 1 has both of the recessive traits. And again, I will show you a shortcut for working those problems later.